horse friends, I'm Becca Salamone and this is Southern Horse Talk. I want to welcome you to another episode of Mary Miller Jordan's Mustang Mentors. If you want to get future updates on this and other shows, other horse information, other horse stories, you can click the subscribe button below. But in the meantime, we want to welcome Mary to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you come every month to give us an update on what's going on with everything in your life. You got so much going on. And last time we talked, you were having your I Am Heard event in North Carolina, and we want to find out how that went. So how'd it go?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share. Yes, that I Am Heard event was in Lumberton, North Carolina, October 31st. It was our first big public event. I had done some things before that were more kind of private. We'd gone to some schools and gone to some things like that. But this was our first big public event to really share, with everyone what we were about. So just to give you a quick kind of summary of what it was, I had some other spotlight performers that were there as well that we showcased. My daughter, Philly Kay, did a really, really cool freestyle with her pony squirt to This Little Light of Mine. And she designed the whole thing herself. We just basically lit her up. I got butterfly wings that had LED lights, and we put butterfly wings on my just turned 5-year-old daughter and her pony. He had a unicorn horn on, and we basically just lit her up and let her shine, and she was phenomenal. It was so much fun. And then I had two other special spotlight performers, Teresa Lee and her Mustang Rune, and they did a really cool performance, really with a lot of toys. This Mustang, he goes and fetches different toys. He's learning his colors. He already knows the color red. He'll go fetch the color red. So it was really, really fun. And then Lauren Zapita and her Mustang Gringo, they did a really cool performance for us as well. So we brought in outside entertainment, so to speak. And then the message of the show, the Mustang message, I had my 4 kind of core Mustangs that I take with me, which is Silver, Magic, Colors, and Sueño. And I started the message, I was sitting on Silver, and I had Magic with me, and I had Colors and Sueño just loose, doing whatever they wanted to in the arena. We were using like a big open arena at a equestrian facility. And so I started, talking about the message, and basically what I explained is how the wild horses are gathered, how they're rounded up. And what I talked about was how, all these horses that the audience was seeing, all 4 of my Mustangs, used to live in the wild. And the way that they're gathered is they're rounded up by a helicopter. And the helicopter basically chases the horses towards the place where they're going to be caught into a holding pen. And obviously, the horses are running away from the helicopter. They're afraid of it. They are in a state of what we would call fight or flight mode, and they're in flight, which we as humans go into fight or flight mode as well. It's a primitive mode of behavior. It's very beneficial for a Mustang to go quickly into that mode because that's what's kept them alive all these years. We are not like that. We don't live in the wild. It does not benefit humans to operate in fight or flight mode, but we still have that primitive part of our brain, and we still go there when we're afraid. So there's a lot of similarities we can learn. So back to the analogy with the Mustangs. So the Mustangs are, running full speed. This whole herd of Mustangs are running full speed from this helicopter. As I say that to the crowd at the show, literally, Colors and Sueño take off like wild, crazy, never been touched. I mean, they take off and they start running laps around the arena. And they are flying. They're bucking. They're running to the other end, sliding to a stop wheel. And I just rolled with it. I just kept on. I had people afterwards think that I cued them to do that, but they just somehow were aligned with the message and knew it. And so they just continued to run and give this incredible visual, while I'm talking about the Mustangs running from this helicopter and running from their fears. Okay, so then I talk about what's called the Judas horse. And there is a domestic horse or domesticated horse that in the roundups, what happens is they teach this horse that when the horses turn loose, he runs full speed to the catch pen where he knows he's going to get food. Okay, so he's been trained to do this. And they call it the Judas horse. All right, well, you know, most of us know what Judas means. If you don't, look it up. Basically, Judas is a biblical term, and it comes from, you know, someone that you thought was a friend that ended up deceiving you. I mean, that's the gist of it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of interesting that, I mean, that's a pretty fitting name for the Judas horse, because as these, you know, no telling how many Mustangs, I mean, it could be 50, 100, whatever, they're in this huge herd, they're running from this helicopter, they're afraid, they see this one horse, okay, and this one horse appears to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He looks confident to the wild horses. He knows where he's going, okay? The wild horses, they're scared. They are desperate for somebody else to tell them where to go, that they feel like they can trust.
Right.
Now, they've never met this horse before. This is not a confidant. This isn't a friend. This is just someone else that kind of looks like them, and in a moment of weakness because of fear, they latch onto it, okay? And they all chase this Judas horse. Well, what happens? You know, the Judas horse, he runs to his bucket of feed that's in the catch pen. All the wild Mustangs follow him. The gate's shut. They're stuck, right? They're stuck. Now, this is a wonderful analogy for how we many times handle our difficulties in life. Because oftentimes, when we are afraid, or when we are operating from any negative emotion, and negative emotions are more than just fear. It's just the obvious one. But it can be envying someone else. That is a negative. That's in that same group. It can be feeling not confident, feeling insecure. All of these things put us in that same category, okay? And when we are operating in that mode, we are doing the same thing as those wild horses when they are running blind from that helicopter, okay? And when our brain is in fight or flight, running blind mode, we desperately look for things that are shining. We look for the person or the object that appears to have things figured out because we're desperate. We can't figure it out on our own. We're terrified and we're desperately looking for help. So we grasp. We just grasp at straws. And, you know, this could be a situation of maybe a teenager in high school that is lost in their own, you know, self. They're feeling insecure. They don't know who to turn to. And they latch on to the guidance of a peer that maybe is not really a healthy peer to be friends with. That often happens. That's like a Judas friend. This that you think is a friend, but they're guiding you to the catch pen. And it goes deeper than that. You know, it goes to our thoughts. When we are afraid, our brain starts turning on all kinds of Judas thoughts. And those Judas thoughts are the thoughts that are negative, that tell us we can't do it. We're not good enough. We're never going to be able to change. These are all Judas thoughts. And we latch onto them when we're scared, just like those wild horses, because we're desperate. You know, and what happens is those Judas thoughts lead us to the catch pen, and then we're stuck. And you can always climb out. There's always a way out. But it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And if you think about, this was really powerful to me. If you think about that same group of wild horses, okay, same group, if they were at their water hole, relaxed, drinking water, eating grass, hanging out in grazing mode energy, peaceful grazing mode energy, and if that Judas horse had been turned loose, they wouldn't have followed him. Heck, they might would have run him off.
That's right.
They might not have even accepted him in their herd, right? Because they were at a state of grazing mode where they could think clearly and make a healthy decision. But you take those same horses and you put them in a state of fear, in fight or flight mode, which we go to ourselves, and they're desperate to latch onto that Judas horse and go wherever that one little horse takes them.
Exactly.
So the message was really about recognizing our Judas thoughts and learning how to find our own grazing mode so that we could not just chase that Judas thought into a catch pen.
Right.
And it was just so brilliant to have the Mustangs help me in such a way to show that energy and that fear, even though they weren't actually afraid as they're flying around. They're having fun. But I mean, really embrace that same, dramatic emotion. And then, of course, as we continued, I had them lay down. I had Colors do her rollover where she lays on her back and really show how they can go to such peaceful, trusting grazing mode when, we create the space in our hearts and in our time and in our life to allow grazing mode to occur.
Yeah. I guess the key there would be, and it's for me as well, because I recognize those negative thoughts you're talking about. Can I do this? Am I good enough? I get those all the time. So what's the key to make me go back to peaceful grazing mode? That's the main answer right there.
Isn't it though? Well, I think one thing that's really powerful and really important is anytime you have a thought, and that thought has always in it. This is a Deepak Chopra concept that I just adore. If you're saying always, then you are talking about the weight that's behind you, not what's up ahead of you. If I say, I always have a messy house, or I always fail at such and such, well, you're redefining your future. Okay, well, so in your reality, it always happened in your past. But if you're going to say, I always do this, well, now you're bringing it into your future. And you're the one doing that. Nothing has always happened in your future. How can that be?
That's
right?
True. Yeah.
We think that way. So we define our future and we create things that are always happening in our future because they always happened in our past. And that is really deep, and it goes beyond just your conscious thoughts. There's a lot of subconscious, self-limiting beliefs that we deal with. So I think you really have to constantly self-regulate yourself and recognize what your limiting beliefs are, because we all have them. And when you start to hear those limiting beliefs, check in with yourself and say, hey, wait, that's my wake. My wake is not in front of me. My boat is sailing ahead on new waters, and that wake has nothing to do with my future. And for me, it really helps to recognize that, kind of rein my brain in and say, hey, we're not going there. And for me personally, it also helps to really take time for yourself, time to be peaceful. And that is a unique thing for everyone. And it's hard to say, okay, what is it that you need to do to feel peace? For me, it is having time alone. It's having time where I can, in nature, where I can just look at the leaves of the trees below and just give myself the opportunity to decompress and go into grazing mode. We don't prioritize that as a culture.
We don't.
We prioritize work.
Yeah.
If it's not working out, then what do? You work harder.
That's
try
right.
harder. Dig in, Lots of times we're in that mode and we're trying harder. All we're doing is digging a deeper hole in the wrong direction. And what we've got to do, now there are times we need to try again, but don't just keep trying the same thing. That's the whole thing about being in your wake. Don't just reinvent something that didn't work already and just reinvent it with more power. So going into grazing mode really helps decompress, okay? It helps you not be trying so hard, and it lets you just allow the ideas to come to you. And the right answer typically does not come with force. It's something that is allowed to come into your brain. If you're trying really hard, please tell me, I've got to figure this out. I don't know what to do. That's when you're inviting Judas thoughts. But if you can decompress, say, I trust that this is going to work out the way it's meant to. I trust in the powers of this universe, that the stars and the moons are aligning in my best interest right now. Allow. The answer will literally just come and just appear in your mind. Just boom, it's there.
Yeah, it really does. I call that inspiration.
Yeah, you got it.
Now, tell me, did this message resound with kids and adults, or what type of people were at the event?
That was a challenge for me in my planning of how to do this message, because most of the time when I am heard, we go to do these things, it's a specific type of audience. Maybe we go to a school, or maybe we go to a group of women that have had some domestic violence. I can target my message, and I really, with this message, what I did was I just really went inward and just tried to think of what is it I need to tell myself, and that's what I talked about. And I had wonderful feedback. There were a lot of kids, but there were also a lot of elderly people. There were some people that had come from an assisted living facility, and I had one after another, tell me that it really did touch them and that people need to hear this, and thanked me for sharing. So I feel like for the type of event it was, that it was a really good message to really embrace, the Mustangs in it, and just because honestly, it all comes down to the same thing. It really does. Whether you're dealing with bullying at school, or whether you are in a job you don't like and you really want to find a way out, or whether you're struggling with your body image, or you're depressed because life isn't going. All of these things come down to finding your own grazing mode energy and not allowing your Judas thoughts to lead your life. Right. So it really did apply, to everyone. And it was really fun. We were able to really include the little kids in it at the end, and even more, because we did a little costume deal, and we had the kids come in their costumes, and one of our Mustangs that was part of the show, Gringo, he has a yes or no cue. So we had all of them line up, and we had him judge them. And of course, he could not decide, because they were all so awesome in different ways. and so we gave them all ribbons and little gold stickers, and then they came around and got candy. So it kind of doubled for them as a little Mustang tricks and treat event as well. That's being awesome. That it was on Halloween.
Yeah, I was going to say it was on Halloween for people that didn't know. Now, are you going to be doing this every year?
Yes, we are. That, we love the facility, really have some great connections with some people in the area to get it even better advertised for next year. So Lumberton, North Carolina, we're going to do one in October next year. It's going to be October 8th, and it's going to be an annual event for us. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to it, and also looking forward to all the little events that we do in the meantime that are in the backyards of schools and 4-H groups and foster care locations and places like that as well.
Okay. Well, we only have a few more minutes, but I want to touch on something that's really exciting in your life right now. You are developing your Mary Miller Jordan Western helmet. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll try to just be really short because there's so much. But the MMJ Western helmet, basically, I designed it back in 2012 because my daughter was then 2. I knew I was going to want her to ride in a helmet, and I personally never rode in a helmet because as a kid, my granddad tried to get me to one time, and nobody else was doing it in that world I was in, and I felt self-conscious. And I didn't want my daughter to ever, be in a situation where she has to have a helmet on and she feels self-conscious about it. So I wasn't going to say, you have to do it, but I'm not. So I made this commitment to do it myself. Well, then, about the same time I made that commitment was about the time that I was going to have the finals for the Extreme Mustang Makeover, right? And it's a Western, my judges, reining horse judges, working cow judges, very Western disciplines in Texas, sea of cowboy hats is what I'm out there showing with. And I'm thinking, okay, I've made this commitment that I'm going to wear a helmet, and yet I'm getting ready to do this huge competition, and, the look does matter. It does. We're all human. We all have first impressions. It matters. And I had a really nice horse, Silver Lining, that I will have forever that year to show. And, I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way. And I'm an artist, just in my heart, I've always done art, and I have a very visual mind, and I minored in art in college as well. And so, I felt like there's got to be a way of kind of playing on, just the artistic design that we can make this work. And so I played around with it, and I wore it that year, and I mean, I was followed around by people at that whole show, where can I get one? Where can I get one? And so I knew it had to be done, and fast forward 3 years later, I've tried so many different ways. I've contacted multiple helmet companies. I have, and had some things kind of start to happen and then didn't work out. Some of them weren't interested at all. I have thought about just doing it, making the hat on top of the helmet myself without going through a helmet company, and did that a very small amount for just friends, people I knew. What it comes down to is the only way to do this, that it can be totally certified, totally a SEI certified helmet, is for me to do everything from the ground up, which means I gotta, manufacture my own helmet hat, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm preparing to do. So there's a tremendous amount of upfront cost. I feel like I'm going to be able to keep the cost of the helmet hat to the public at a very reasonable price. However, there's a lot of upfront in getting started, because I have to pay the certification company to certify it. The insurance is insanely expensive, because it is a huge liability. I'm designing this thing, everything. So we are going to do a Kickstarter campaign for it after the first of the year. We're going to announce the date soon. And I've had a tremendous response from the public wanting to support this. I know it's going to happen. I feel like God has literally strong-armed me into doing this, is how I feel. It's like I knew it was supposed to happen from the start, and I've tried every way to avoid going big, and God has said, hey, this is what you're doing. You can do it. You've got the support. The stars and the moons are lined up. Do it. And it needs to happen for the public. There's too many kids out there that are not going to wear a helmet unless it looks the part, and adults as well, or feel self-conscious wearing one that doesn't look the part. It matters, and so we're doing it.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're doing that, and I hope that we can follow along with you as you go through that process, and maybe people can learn from that as well if they're doing similar businesses. So that's great.
Yeah.
So we really have to go. We've gone over our time. Are there any events that you want to mention coming up?
Really, there are some really big events next year. The last of October, there's going to be another Ride for Life. That's a suicide awareness event that we're a part of, and I'd love for people to check that out. Also, I'm going to be doing a very special retreat with your Silver Linings in August. That's going to be here in North Carolina. Only offering one of those this year, and more information about all that can be found at my personal website, marymillerjordan.com. As well as IamHeard.com, HERD.
Awesome. Well, that was my next question, so you answered it. Yay. Well, thank you so much for sharing with Southern Horse Talk today. Really appreciate it, Mary.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to look forward to you coming back next time for another episode of Mary Miller Jordan's Mustang Mentors on Southern Horse Talk. Bye-bye.